And a special treat to close out the show. We got Mr. Nick Kalikas from Circa Sports, the MMA odds maker. And I want to tell you something. When I grow up, my goal in life is to go to Circa Sports. They've got this incredible, you've got to look it up on the internet. It's incredible swimming pool sports bar with huge, big screens. I cannot wait to get a vaccine and go out there. Nick, thank you very much for joining us on the show.
I appreciate you guys having me, man. And like you said, we welcome all to Circa Swim. That's Stadium Swim. It's amazing that if you guys have not checked out Stadium Swim or the world's biggest sports book at Circa Las Vegas, you got to check it out.
World's biggest sport book. I love it. I cannot wait to get there. I just need to get a vaccine first. I may sneak out anyway. The heck with it. And we also got one of the buddies of the Philly Godfather, who has been around a long time, an MMA handicapper. He's one of the best, Mr. Gotham City. Thank you very much for joining us, Gotham City. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. We're ready to go. And just so Rooster knows, I brought a little prop that he might be proud of.
All right, I like this guy already.
I figured we would upgrade just a little bit from Boone's Farm. So after the broadcast, I'm going to get an address and send him some wine.
I don't think Harry even drinks Boone's Farm. I think Harry just sends it to Rooster just to make it mad. Is what he does.
Opus One is my favorite wine on earth.
I grew up
coming your way.
I grew up in Texas, so Coors Light is our cowboy champagne. That's about as fancy as we get. Well, let's get right down to it. We got a good main event coming this weekend. Got Blades versus Lewis. Nick Kalikas from Circa Sports. What do you got as far as the odds on this and any money movement?
Right now, we're seeing Blades minus 405, the comeback on Lewis at plus 330. The total rounds minus 1.5, over minus 200, plus 75. And we have seen some action come in on Blades a little bit. A lot of parlay actually coming in on Blades as well. And then people are betting the over 1.5 rounds in this fight. So it is a very popular fight at the betting window. We're getting a ton of action. I'm expecting at some point the straight bets to come in on Lewis at that intriguing dog price, though.
How much bigger are the bets as far as total size when you have, say, a UFC pay-per-view? Because they're fighting every single Saturday. You know, some cards are obviously bigger and some cards are obviously better than others. But like right. Usman last week was something everybody's been waiting for. Incredible performance by Usman, by the way. What's the difference in bet size that you normally see, say, in a pay-per-view, a UFC 258, 257, as compared to Fight Night?
Well, for the main event, our limits, our standard limits are about 20K for those pay-per-view headliners, especially the bigger ones. I mean, minimum about 10K to 20K. And then our standard limits on like a Fight Night event for this main event would be more like 5K. Now, of course, you can ask for more if people want to get down more than 5K. All they have to do is ask, and we will try to oblige them as well. But we do see a lot more action during the pay-per-view events for sure, because there's usually title fights or marquee names headlining those events. Not that Blades and Lewis are not marquee names. So this is going to be very popular as far as handle on the main event. But typically speaking, the Fight Night cards do see a little bit less action overall.
Two big heavyweights going at it, Gotham City. What do you got in this fight between Blades and Lewis?
Well, you know, Curtis Blades has been a warrior in the heavyweight division for the UFC. As a matter of fact, his only two losses are to Francis Ngannou, who a lot of people think could really give Stipe Miocic a really run for his money here coming up in their fight in a couple weeks. You know, the beast Lewis, Derek Lewis, if you don't follow on Instagram, his Instagram is one of the funniest things you've ever seen. I encourage people to watch it. He is a man full of color, character, and it's very entertaining. You know, this fight is very interesting because it's kind of a striker versus grappler matchup. The striker here for sure is Derek Lewis. He has very, very heavy hands. His output is not super fantastic, though. However, he just does seem to win fights. Curtis Blades works his way in, heavy clinch game, get you to the ground, heavy top game. And that's why you're seeing the odds here of a 4-1 favorite. You know, the interesting point here is that Derek Lewis has been getting in a lot better shape. He's moved his training camp. He's been nutritionally based. He's looking slimmer. He's looking faster. You know, I don't believe that these odds should be this high. I think at 4-1, it's just too high. So if anybody's going to play anything, this has to be a value play on Derek Lewis at plus, 325 or 330, but it has to be small. I mean, most people think that Blades is going to get a hold of him, drop him to the ground, beat him up. He's not really a submission guy. He's more of a top ground and pound guy. So Derek Lewis is going to have much less of a chance to get back to his feet in this fight. So I think you're going to see the public come in late actually on Derek Lewis here. And they're gonna start betting Derek Lewis, and you're gonna see those odds go. And I think that Curtis Blades' money might drop a little bit. I think that Blades inside the distance is probably the play here, and I think that's something that should be on the radar.
Let's go to another fight that's on the card. Imavov and Hawes. Nick Kalikas from Circa Sports, biggest sports book in the world. What do you got for the odds and the money movement?
This is definitely one of my favorite fights on this card. It got rebooked, of course, and moved to this card. So I'm glad that they did keep it together because I think this has potential to be fireworks. Right now, Hawes is a minus 115 favorite. The comeback on Imavov is minus 105. So basically a pick 'em fight with a slight lean towards Hawes. I do think there's probably more action going to come in on Imavov. We're seeing more sharp sides lean that way. So I wouldn't be surprised if Imavov goes off as a slight favorite in this spot. But again, two very good contenders, future contenders, we should say. I mean, two good prospects right now at this level. So I think we're going to continue to see a ton of money come in here. I think the public side will be Hawes a little bit more so. So this has just been a very popular fight, and I continue to see that. And I expect it to be, like I said, an amazing fight overall.
And we want to reiterate when we tape this show, obviously these odds are going to change by money coming in, as Nick is talking about from Circa Sports. So be sure and check your updated odds. Nick, do you happen to have the over-under as well?
Sure. It's right now 1.5 over minus 120. The comeback even money on the under. So not expecting this fight to go very long. I mean, both of these guys are finishers. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Hawes, of course, has looked just phenomenal. He's going out there just lighting everybody up quick like. And then Imavov has the finishing ability as far as submission goes and the knockout potential. So this fight probably won't last too long.
Speaking of finishers, how'd you guys do on Vieira last week? I mean, nobody expected Vieira to lose that fight. I've never seen a guy more blown up, gassed in my entire life. Did you guys have much exposure on that?
Oh, we did. I mean, parlays, that was a savior for the night because we needed either Usman or Vieira to kind of go down because everybody was parlaying those guys like crazy. So, yeah, it just balanced us off because we did take a loss on the Usman parlays hitting, but Vieira busted up so many parlays that actually made up the difference. So it was a phenomenal win or upset, for the sports books for sure, because we need those once in a while, man. It can't be that easy, right? With everybody just parlaying these big chalk favorites and then hitting. So, I was glad to see that happen. What a crazy fight that was.
Let me jump in real quick, John. When you said it can't be that easy, I know over the last 8 months since COVID struck, we've seen a lot of favorites covered in the UFC. We've seen a lot of late replacements come in and lose. Felder's one of the recent ones. I remember he took the fight on short notice, and even though he has the heart of a lion and he fought his what off, it was just too short of a notice for him. What have you guys done to adjust with all these favorites, winning these fights, and what type of liability? I mean, what kind of positions are you guys in with all these favorites continuing to cash? I mean, how has it hurt you guys? Have you guys adjusted at all, or you guys are just putting the same price on these fights?
It's definitely not fun because we are going to lose, on parlays when stuff like that happens, when these favorites continue to hit like that. But as far as adjusting, I mean, I think every fight is a little bit different. Every fight card's a little different. So I don't want to overreact because of the trends of all these favorites hitting, because it will come back down to reality. We're going to see more dogs start to win again, and the favorites will kind of take a back step. But obviously, I mean, historically, you're going to see most of the time, 7 out of 10 favorites win on a card or whatnot. So, I mean, that happens in MMA, and a lot of people believe that that's why it's easy money to do that. But like we just talked about Vieira last weekend, I mean, we see a huge favorite like that go down. Or not too long ago during the pandemic, I mean, one of the biggest upsets, and she's fighting on this card. Dobson pulled off against Akapova. That was ridiculous. I mean, that was one of the biggest upsets in UFC history. So we do see those kind of hit from time to time, and it's definitely welcome. So we'll get it back. I mean, if we lose a little bit on parlays and some chalk, that's kind of to be expected sometimes. We're not going to freak out too much because it is a long-term thing. By the end of the year, we're going to get so many of those back that we should be okay.
Gotham City, what do you got on this fight with Imavov and Hawes?
Yeah, this should be a real barn burner here, simply because Phil Hawes is known as Megatron. He's training out of Sanford MMA. He has super quick hands, super quick feet. He's got great movement on top. He is a good wrestler, but his ground game is a little bit more limited once he gets you there. And then you have Imavov, and Imavov is going to be the bigger fighter here. He's going to have somewhere around a 4-inch height advantage. He's going to have somewhere around, I think, about a 6-inch reach advantage. He's going to be the stronger fighter here. I actually think that he can match Hawes speed for speed with his foot movement inside and outside. I think the public's going to be heavy here on Phil Hawes, and I think this is a perfect opportunity to take Imavov at minus 105 or plus 105 or even money here, because I think that line's going to climb. And by the time this closes, I think you're going to see Imavov the favorite here. And I think Imavov wins this fight. And I think he wins it in devastating fashion.
Well, as a longtime UFC fan, since I've been watching since UFC 1 and good friends with Ken Shamrock, wrestled him several times. Thank goodness it was in WWE and not in the octagon. I might not be talking to you right now if I did. Kid is a freaking beast. I love you guys. So we got Arlovski and Aspinall coming up. Should be a great fight. What do you got, Nick Kalikas from Circus Sports? What do you got?
We got Aspinall minus 270 to come back on Arlovski at plus 230. Now, the over rounds, over under for this one is 1.5 minus 165 on the over, plus 45 on the under. So another spot where, I mean, it's a tough one with the over under, right? Because Arlovski, he hangs in there. He's been more durable as of late overall, right? And historically, you know, he's had a little bit of a problem with his chin. But this heavyweight run that he's been on, I mean, and being used kind of as a gatekeeper, if that makes sense, to see some of these prospects, if they can get over that hump and if they could get in kind of contendership status, right? And he's been picking off these contenders left and right. It's crazy. So I think Arlovski still has a lot left in the tank, a lot more than I gave him credit for even a few years back. And it's phenomenal seeing him compete at this level still. But make no mistake, I mean, a lot of people are going to parlay Aspinall. Aspinall's a very heavy hitter. I think he has the potential to obviously stop Arlovski as well. So the line being a little bit more inflated probably than it should be. But again, we do need to offset some of the parlays here. But make no mistake, Arlovski, he's come through as a dog so many times. I'm expecting a lot of public dog money to come in on Arlovski this time as well.
Gotham City, are you going with the old guy?
I am not in this fight.
No, come on.
The last 3 fights I have been with Andrei Arlovski because of the matchups. However, you know, I don't like the term styles make fights. I think you're seeing data change a little bit of that moniker, but you have to look at what Andrei Arlovski's become. Okay. Andrei Arlovski has fought for multiple organizations. He's fought the best of the best. I've watched him throughout his entire career. He was very wild, very aggressive at the very beginning of his career. And now towards the end of his career, he's realized that he has to be a little bit more of a point fighter and not get into wild firefights because these guys that he's facing have much more power than he does. And you can see that his power is really decreased over time, but he's very, very cordial in the ring. He's got good movement still. I watched his last fight against Tanner Boser. He's still moving very well. But, you know, one of the big things in a Tanner Boser fight, and a lot of public money came in on Tanner Boser, is that he is much smaller than Andrei Arlovski. He swings very wide. All of his punches are looping outside punches, and Andrei has a chance to read those. So Andrei can kind of move out of the way, come down the middle. And, you know, Tanner Boser was not going to lose that fight anyway, you know, but decision. But Andrei outpointed in that whole fight. Now you have Tom Aspinall coming in. This guy is big, strong, and he is really, really good boxing credentials here. Okay. He's 6'5", so he's going to be a little bit taller than Arlovski. He's going to weigh a little bit more than Andrei Arlovski in his fight, and he has a couple-inch reach advantage. Tom Aspinall throws punches straight down the middle. They are not coming from the outside. Andrei has to see it to move at this age. And when you get someone that is young and fast as Aspinall, he's going to throw his big, vicious leg kicks. He's going to make Andrei start checking those. And then he's going to be 1-2 down the middle. And I think this is a very possible first-round KO. And it's definitely an inside the distance for Tom Aspinall.
Okay, I'm going to refuse to watch that fight then, based upon that analysis. I'm going to turn my TV off and I'm going to hide during the entire fight. And I'm going to watch it, not check the results. So
there's one fight real quick. There's one fight that Aspinall had, and it was against Sofiane Bokachu. And this was in Cage Warriors. And Aspinall had Sofiane Bokachu up against the cage, and Bokachu threw a leg kick and broke his own leg in half, and Aspinall simply checked it. It did not fire back. That is how physically strong this guy is in his lower body. It's impressive.
It is. And it should be a great fight. And it may not go long, so you better be watching. Another good fight that's coming up, Chavez and Gordon. Nick Kalikas from Circus Sports. What do you got as far as the money and the odds?
Right now, we're seeing Chavez minus 140 to come back on Gordon at plus 120. And the total rounds, 2.5 over minus 180, plus 55 on the under. And this line is another one of these that opened kind of close to a pick 'em. Gordon in some spots opened as a favorite, and the line got flipped towards Chavez. I think a lot of surprised people out there, though, as far as the public goes, because they know Gordon, they know he's an established fighter. He's fought a lot of solid competition. and Chavez only having one real fight in the UFC, so to speak, coming in here in this spot and becoming a favorite. I think a lot of people are surprised, but man, I love what I see from Chavez. I mean, this guy's a very skilled fighter. He continues to work on his ground defense and his takedown defense ability. So I think he is probably the better striker here. And you can definitely make a case for him being the favorite coming into this fight. And we are seeing sharp action kind of go that way a little bit more so than Gordon. But I think we will see a lot of two-way action in this fight because Gordon will attract some of those public bettors that really know who he is.
Gotham City, Chavez, Gordon, what do you got?
I think this is another perfect scenario where you're going to see public money come in on the fighter that they know, and Jared Gordon. You know, he's put on some pretty wild firefights. He's been on the right side of a couple, been on the wrong side of a couple. And then you have Danny Chavez, who I think is the much more fluent and efficient striker. I think Jared Gordon likes to trade on the feet, and I think that Danny Chavez has much better movement there. I think the price of $1.40 is right on the money for Chavez. I think you'll see all the professional money come in on him, and we're going to back him in this fight.
Well, there you have it, guys. There is a UFC wrap-up. We want to say a special thanks to Nick Kalikas from Circus Sport, the biggest sports book in the world. And biggest thing is a swimming pool with a big screen, which I can't wait to go out and get in and watch some sports and gamble on some sports. And from Gotham City, and we've had the top 5 NCAA, the top 5 NBA. We've had a ton of future picks today for you to bet on, to cash, we hope, in due time. Most importantly, we've had the Rooster drinking wine this entire time. And any show with a Rooster drinking wine is a great show. So for Harry Mays, the Philly Rooster, from Bobby and Matt from the College Kids, Nick Kalisos from Circus Sports, the Philly Godfather, the 8 Ball, and Mr. Gotham City. I'm John Layfield. Check out our YouTube channel, all types of special tips, exclusive content. Thanks for joining us.